Here.
Emily Johnson,
Here.
Nancy Austin,
Here.
Kathy Batchmer,
Here.
Barbara Blake,
Here.
Beth Sigmund,
Here.
Deb Lawless,
Here.
Joe Magliola, and Mr. Scott Summers here. Okay. All in attendance.
All in attendance. I'll remind the board to speak into your microphones. And if you're going to turn your head, stick your mouth next to your microphone first. I know Beth has got hers where she's not going to talk to us today. Yeah. Okay, the agenda has been presented. Are there any changes to it? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept.
I move acceptance of the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Nellie has made a motion to accept the agenda. Nancy has seconded. Any discussion? Those in favor signify by raising a hand. Unanimous, I think. Bart, did you vote?
I'm looking at the agenda. I picked it up because I forgot to bring it. The agenda that I picked up out there has 5 on them. That's right.
Yeah, are you on the special meeting one?
Yes.
Has 5 items.
Okay, good.
I like your haircut.
Well, who wouldn't? Yeah, I'll vote yes too. Thanks.
Okay, so Bart is with us. Nancy, we have a unanimous. All right, the first and only action item is the Del Sol Clubhouse. I'm going to turn this over to Scott.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you, Madam President. Appreciate that. And thank you for allowing us to have this special meeting. Sometimes things come up and time is of the essence. So we took advantage of the fact that you were having a work session today and threw a special meeting on it too, because we need the board to take some action. So essentially, the board is being asked to amend the contract with Building Excellence, which is the contractor that's working on the Del Sol Clubhouse, by increasing the total contract amount from $1,083,943,000 to $1,259,350.70, and authorizing the president to sign the amended contract. If you recall, the board awarded this contract to Building Excellence back in November of 2023 in the amount that I just said. The difference in the two amounts is $175,407.70. The bulk of that cost is associated with parking lot improvements that were not anticipated. Those costs are approximately $154,110. And as we put in your staff report, hopefully you've had a chance to review it. And if you approve, those dollars can come from the maintenance, repair, and replacement fund. So that's the bulk of this increase can be expended from the MRR fund. The difference to the initiatives fund is $21,298.07. I had sent out an email earlier today explaining an unexpected cost associated with having to remove a curb that had been replaced. The county code requires a turning radius or a curve radius of 25 feet. The construction documents, the civil engineer documents were designed to code for 25 feet. While those permits were under review, and there were 3 comments from the county, we didn't hear about our contractor, and our project manager at the time didn't hear about anything associated with changing the radius of that curb. And so the contractor proceeded, we believe, because our project manager said we feel confident in moving forward. Well, at the last minute, the county changed their mind. They had an inspector come out and say, no, we're going to require 35-foot radius on this curb because we need to be able to make sure our sewer truck can get into the facility and do a 3-point turn to get out. And so they would not sign the final permit approval until those construction documents were changed. And once they were changed, they gave final approval for those permits. Unfortunately, the work had already been completed. So that is a big change. Certainly, we didn't expect that. No one expected that. As we said, the construction documents were to code, and the project manager at the time felt pretty confident that that was going to be okay. We had received 3 comments back from the county at that point. None of them mentioned anything about the curb and the curve having to increase the radius. So he felt fairly confident at that point that we're not going to hear anything. This is all good. Let's move forward. Well, hindsight is 2020, and that wasn't the case. So that ended up costing us a bit of money. At the end of the day, we're still under budget. Before these change orders, we're under budget in the Del Sol Clubhouse by about $346,000. This has been associated so far entirely with the initiatives fund. But as I've said in the staff report, the increase to the initiatives fund would be $21,298.07. The parking lot, if you've been to the parking lot and you've seen it, it's pretty bad. I think we were hopeful that we could put a seal coat on it at a cost of about $8,000 to $10,000. That was in the original scope of work. That's what the contractor bid on. Once the subcontractor took a look at the parking lot, they said, we cannot seal coat this. This is in really bad shape. It needs to be repaired and replaced and then improved. So we received the credit for the seal coat, which was about $8,000 to $10,000. And then the additional cost was closer to 160, but it netted out at about an additional of 154,000. As I said, we believe that with board approval, we have Bob Browning's approval on this, we can use those MRR funds to fund the parking lot project. So it's quite complicated. I realize that. We've spent a lot of time trying to dissect that in this staff report and then follow up with today's email concerning why the county made us pull out that original curve. So with that, I'll entertain any questions and I'll do my very best to answer them for you. Yeah, sure, that'd be great.
We usually do a motion before we discuss. Yes, Nancy? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we go ahead and approve the amount requested out of the initiatives fund and he's able to finish the parking lot.
Okay, do we have a second to Beth's motion? Okay, Jim has seconded. So Beth made a motion to move forward with the parking lot, to amend the contract with Building Excellence for work being completed on the Del Sol Clubhouse by increasing the total contract amount from $1,083,943 to $1,259,350.70, a total increase of $175,407.70 and $21,298.07, which will be expended from the initiative funds, and the $154,109.63 from the MR&R funds. And then authorize the president to sign the amended contract.
Thank you for
That's
clarifying.
exactly what I said, yes.
Thank
I
you.
thought so, I could tell.
It's a complex motion.
is.
We wanted to make
That's
sure we
why it was
captured it.
easier to just read it. Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Now we have any discussion.
A question?
Carol?
This is Bev. Oh, sorry.
Here, is the contractor taking any responsibility for the fact that he gave us a contract saying all we needed was a coating on the asphalt? And now all of a sudden it's an extra $150,000?
No, because they bid on the construction documents and the scope of work within the documents themselves. So he hadn't assessed the parking lot prior. He only bid on what was in the scope and in the construction documents.
Who assessed the parking lot?
It was really staff that put the scope of work together.
Okay, so what we're really looking at is a $28,000 county last minute. What in the world do you do about the government, right? And $154,000 kind of lump up and right in the bid.
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. I
And
think we were optimistic when we put together the scope. I mean, we had been looking at that since we purchased it in 21. And at the time, our staff said, oh yeah, we think we can, you know, get by minimally. And that just wasn't the case.
now, when did the clubhouse go into the MR&R report?
That's a good question. I put this in the staff report also, but it has not gone into the MRR
I
report.
couldn't find it.
It absolutely needs to, and,
Well, how can we take money out of the MR&R?
because it's your money. That's what Bob Browning said. It's your money. So if the board approves it, you can absolutely do that. As long as, and we're not going to ask the board to increase the budget from MRR. You've got a budget of 1.7 million in MRR this year. We're not going to come near spending that. So we're not asking the board to go above what you've already appropriated, but since this line item isn't within that 1.7, we need board approval before we can spend those dollars. And yes, it should have been in there. That was an oversight. I don't really know how it wasn't in there, but it absolutely should have. David Webster and I are kind of scratching our heads trying to figure out why it wasn't, because we've mentioned it various times to Bob Browning, but we didn't follow up to make sure that it ended up in there.
When are we going to get an updated MR&R report that includes all of our?
Okay, Carol, let's not worry about that right now.
I mean, okay. but,
Okay.
to
That's
me,
kinda
that's a
outside the
critical
scope.
item here.
Yeah, but we
Moving
are
around
on-
money.
You are outside the scope of what we're discussing. Bev?
Does our motion need to include taking money out of MR&R, not just taking money out of initiatives to pay for the 21,000? Doesn't it need to include both that we approve?
It does. If, do you have the document in front of you? I reread for Beth. I reread her motion, and it does say that, 154, 109, 63 is coming out of the MR&R.
Okay,
Okay?
Yep.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Kathy?
There's an item on here for a site wall. Could someone explain to me what that is and why you didn't have it in the original bid document?
The site wall at the top up here.
Oh, this was a change order to just increase that. I think it was, if I recall, it was bigger than anticipated. It was a pretty significant, site wall.
What is the site wall?
Well, that was the earth barrier wall in the back of the building, which is the south side of the building. It bumped out into the berm there, if you recall what that looks like. And so that site wall is more significant than I think what we originally anticipated and what the scope was. Part of the wall came out, we needed a walkway in order to access the restroom in the back door there as well. So it just ended up costing more. That earthwork was more expensive than anticipated.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Kathy?
Kind of, could you also tell me what, on the second item down, what a stock creep for the bathrooms is?
Yeah, it's related to concrete. Honestly, I really don't know exactly what shotcrete is. If there's a contractor in the room, maybe you can tell me, but I know it's related to concrete. And we got a credit of $5,450 for it because we used less than we expected.
I like
Okay.
credit.
And just, I'm sorry, one more item. Credit for the pool table lighting, it doesn't show as a negative. So I'm wondering, are they not gonna put that?
Oh.
Pool,
It should. Yeah, that was my mistake. And you're looking at the staff report on page 2. If you
Right.
turn to page 4. Yeah, well, let's see, is that there? Yeah, there it is. The bottom one is credit back, pool table lighting, negative $17,800.
and the pool club or whoever's gonna be using those pool tables don't need that lighting anymore?
No, they do, but we have the lighting. So this was part of the scope, but we already have the lighting. So we're going to reuse our existing lighting and use our staff to hang it.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Bart?
I don't know if this is or accurately described as a question or a comment, but I did get a call today from a GBR member who said, kind of naturally, I think, he said, look, you people are playing game because we started off with a contract of just over $1 million, which was under the 10% rule, so it didn't require a membership vote. Now we're moving to a contract of 1.26 million roughly, which would have required a membership vote under the previous 10% rule. But now that we have the bylaws change, it's under the 12% and therefore doesn't need a membership vote. And essentially his question to me, although he expressed it less politely than my rephrasing, his question to me was, weren't you people just finagling around with these figures in order to get done in a project that should have required a membership vote? I assured him that that was not the case, at least as far as I was aware, and I was confident that it was not the case. But it might be useful, I think, if Scott were to explain that as well. Thanks.
Josh?
Yeah, thank you, Director Hillier. Yeah, it's unfortunate that some members would think that we would finagle with numbers, but I know that sometimes people think that. There was no finagling. And in fact, it is debatable for various legal opinions as to whether the 10% rule before the bylaws amendment passed, if that 10% applied to the operating budget or both the operating and the capital budget. I will say, when the board approved the East Center Pool, a project that cost $1.3 million, the interpretation at the time was that the 10% rule applied to both capital and operating budgets. This project is less than the East Center Pool. I would also say that we have budgeted tighter than we probably should have on this project. We should have included at least a 10% contingency within this contract. And had we really wouldn't have had to come back here today, but we did budget so tight for it. But I would like to assure the members that no finagling has occurred. The only interest that I or staff, and I'm sure I can speak for the board, is moving forward by trying to fulfill the mission and the vision of the organization. And in this case, that is trying to provide facilities for our members. But there is no other interest other than that. So there's no personal need or interest to finagle any numbers.
Did that answer you, Bart?
Thanks. The only thing that I would, you said that the East Center Pool is 1.3 million. My recollection was that contract that we approved was 1.13 million. And I think 1.13 was under the 10%, even if you use just the operating budget. But anyway, thank you.
Any other questions of Scott? Any other comments? Okay. Anyone from our audience, do you want to tell us anything or say anything or join us up here at the microphone? Okay. All right, so we have a motion on the floor that was made by Beth and seconded by Jim to approve this project. The motion is, do you want me to read it again or are we okay? Read it again? Okay. I move to amend the contract with Building Excellence for work being completed on the Del Sol Clubhouse by increasing the total contract amount from $1,083,943 to $1,259,350.70, a total increase of $175,407.70, and $21,298.07 of which will be expended from the administrative funds, and $154,109 and 63 cents, of which will be expended from the MR&R funds, and authorize the president to sign the amended contract. Okay, those in favor signify by raising a hand. Looks like it's unanimous. Okay, we thank you.
Thank you,
Uh,
board.
And then, do we have any member comments? Well, you guys are quiet out there. Okay, no member comments.